I'm here with an informative post about the Gen 3 Prius and the things you need to do to make sure. Oh boy, is this microphone working? Look at that. Here it is. So, the things you need to do to keep your head gasket intact. I have a little bit of information. Maybe you already know it, maybe you don't. But this could be information that would save you some serious headaches in the future. So I'm actually trying to get an oil change done, and then I'll show you up once I get up top what's going on with what I did to keep another head gasket from blowing. 60,000 miles I've gone with no issues. 3 head gaskets in about 17,000 miles. 3 head gasket replacements in 17,000 miles. I didn't do them all, but I've now been 60,000 miles, no issues. I'll show you what's going on here in a second. All right, get this oil out of here. Maybe. Oh, come on now. Pretty clean. I think disaster was averted. It had already had 2 head gasket changes by the time I got this car. And there's a buddy of mine I bought it off of, and he bought it off of the original owner. And get this moved a little bit here. Gotta get my filter wrench. Oh, this is probably the biggest pain of a oil change vehicle as what I've owned. Can't stand it. Can you even see anything? Who knows? So I got it from him thinking, okay, well, because I knew the Gen 3 Prius had some head gasket issues. So I figured, hey, I'm getting it on the back end of a head gasket change, so I'm probably in the clear. Meanwhile, what I did not know is that, oh, that's not good. What I did not know is that there is an EGR cooler that is a problem. This filter situation is just, it couldn't be a whole lot worse. I don't even know if you're seeing anything. Maybe. So the filter, the EGR cooler is for the purpose of cooling down the exhaust gases before re-entry into the intake. Seems like that's a good idea on the surface, but once that gets plugged up, then from my understanding, oh boy, made a little mess. From my understanding, the combustion chamber temperatures climb way too high. And I guess I should have moved my drain pan back a little bit. The combustion chamber temperatures climb way too high, and that ends up doing irreversible damage to the head gasket. So the first change was done at 231 miles by the first owner. No, I take that back. By the new owner, my buddy, who bought it from, well, my hand's going nuts here, isn't it? Whoa! So he bought it from the original owner and knew that it had a head gasket issue. The hybrid battery had already been replaced, so that was a good thing. So he buys it thinking he can put a head gasket on it and have a decent car for cheap. So he replaced the head gasket, And within about 9,000 miles, has another head gasket failure. And at this point thinks, okay, I must have a warped head. So he has the head resurfaced and changes the head gasket again. Keeps it 1,000 miles or so just to make sure everything's good. And then that's when I come along and I bought it from him, thinking, hey, we're good. He had the head resurfaced. I mean, everything's good. And turns out the EGR cooler had never been looked at. So I get the car at the first oil change. First, I had just done an oil change, the first one after he had done the head gasket at like 246. So he did the head gasket at like 232 or something like that, and then 241, or maybe 230 and 241. So I get the vehicle, and I think I'm good. So 2,000 miles after my first oil change, so about 248-ish and change, I start having this really, really hard start, like hydrolocking starting, because I was getting coolant in my combustion chamber from the head gasket blown. So I'm like, oh, this is a head gasket. Meanwhile, again, this is the third head gasket in like 16 or 17,000 miles, maybe 18. And I'm thinking this is a no-go. Like, what am I going to do? So I tear it apart, thinking, well, I had no choice. I just bought the car. I'd only had it for 5,000 miles. I mean, it was like literally 6 months, less than 6 months, I think, about 5 months. And well, I can't get rid of it at this point. So I do the head gasket. While doing the head gasket, I find all kinds of information about these Priuses, Gen 3, and their head gasket issues. Yeah, tighten that a little bit there. There we go. Okay, we're good here. There's an this thing called an EGR cooler. Find out all about that, and they say you better clean that out. That's the issue. Oh, this is the dumbest design ever. So oh boy, sorry about that. So the EGR, that little pipe right there, you see, that silver pipe, that's the EGR. I should say that's the line coming into the EGR right there. Come on, get a little focus. It's coming in the EGR right there. So that EGR is bolted to the top or front of the. Can I even get you in here to see it? Can you tell? It is right. The thing I'm shining my light on there. Let me get this out of here. This is another thing I got to tell you about. This is my oil catch can. I'll tell you about that in a second. So this, oh boy, where am I? This thing right here, I just zoomed in on. That is the EGR cooler right there in the center of the screen. That, you got to clean it out. Once it gets plugged, you're doomed. Toyota does not put this on their maintenance schedule of things that need to be done. Again, to give you context where I am. So this is the right side as you're standing in front of the vehicle of the head, back side of the head, basically. Rear side of the head, I should say. And that is the EGR cooler, and it's a bear to get to. You have to take all of the wiper assembly off. The whole cowl has to come off. It's a royal pain. But if you want to avoid a future head gasket failure, I'd say by about 130,000 miles, that should have been done, or you'll be doing damage to your head gasket. So that's that. Now, the oil catch can, this comes off the PCB line to my catch can, which is just obviously a ball jar with some stainless steel, like a scrubby in there, to keep liquid from flying around. And that goes then back into the intake. So I'm keeping oil basically and any moisture and condensation out of the intake, and it's going into the catch can. I dump that at every oil change, and I have not had a head gasket issue in 60,000 miles. So I'm just telling you, I don't know if you have a Gen 3 Prius, and if you have possibly some issues with a possible head gasket, I'm telling you, EGR cooler is a smoking gun. That's the thing that needs to be looked at and changed, checked, and cleaned. If you have a Gen 3 Prius, worst design they ever did. It's a known issue from Toyota.